Feast your eyes on the Meebook P10 Pro Edition? Actually, yeah, that's the name. You see, in 2022 July, the P10 Pro came out from Meebook, but this was still around the time Boyu still had a little bit of stake in what goes on in the company. Seeing as Meebook has gravitated away from Boyu and is now going with Howking, they have re-released this unit and labeled it as the P10 Pro Edition. What's different? Well, not a whole lot, but not nothing at the same time. First things first, it's in royal purple from head to toe, even wrapping around to the front, honestly. It also has a more refined battery, but not a bigger battery. Furthermore, they're labeling it as better contrast. The UI elements and usability has also been smoothed over. Although these aren't additional specs or higher specs, we have seen devices get better the more software has been applied. So it's not a far stretch of the imagination to think that's what's going on here. But either way, we have to check this unit out to see if it is new indeed as they're stating, or if it's just more of the same. The first glaring problem with this is obviously the pen. Now, it is our job to nitpick and to find the particulars of what makes a device good and bad. And in the world of eNotes, anything outside of Wacom is considered less convenient, less user-friendly than Wacom is. Now, this is an active capacitive pen, and it is a carryover from the traditional end of Boyu into the Meebook realm. It's using a quadruple A battery. It's an aluminum build, but it's just kind of back-heavy with all this stuff going on. The threaded screw here, the battery pack, the huge chunky cap at the end, and it's all well and good enough for us to say, well, it has note-taking and it has a pen, and for the average person that is enough, but for us we need to delve deeper. Now this does have 2 buttons on it, but it does require complete responsibility for the tips and the battery power, so you're constantly going to be utilizing those 2 consumables. It's not a very nice pen to hold, the tips are very plasticky, it's not a graphite combination, and it's just really glidey on the screen. Also, there's no other pen that'll work on this officially. You'll find some cross-compatibility with Microsoft and Lenovo, etc., but this is really the only pen you have. What Meebook lacks in its overall pen, however, makes up for it with their UI. This is a very easy to use UI. Ever since Meebook came out basically with the P line, P6, P78, P10, P10W subsequently, they have this very simple approach. Everything is gridded, everything is easy to understand. It's very simple. There's only 3 things down below: notepad, read, and app. Apps are just your apps. That's really it. You have a drop down. It's very simple and it's user friendly. You get some icons, and then when you expand it, you get some more things. We have A2 mode, which we will show you in its full capacity when we get to a video, and we have 256 grayscale. We'll just do a side by side of an image just to show you guys that. We have contrast, rotation, battery, all the usual stuff, and you will see out of the box it has Google Play. This is very important because you don't need any backdoor entries, any sort of workarounds. It just works. That is if you have Wi-Fi on. Now this does have a Wi-Fi timeout setting under the power management, so you have to make sure you either turn that off or make sure it's set longer than 1 minute, or else the Wi-Fi is just going to turn off. There's absolutely no problem with Google Play, and this is one of the few manufacturers that has Google Play, but really there are about 5 manufacturers now that use it, so it's not exactly winning any awards with that. You have a global refresh there that just kind of swipes everything away. Everything is pretty slow in its base form. You can A2 mode it to speed it up a little bit, but you do lose a lot of that overall fluidity you get on extreme modes or X modes or the higher speed modes that devices like Bigme and Onyx and Hisense and Dasung offer. It is just kind of an A2 on or off. They don't really give you any other middle ground, although it is globally acceptable because it goes throughout the entire device, so that's kind of nice. You do have reading with all your books right there. It does come with some preloaded books, which we will be looking at, but we also have the Kindle app open, so we have to look at some books right now. The reading experience is only ever going to be as good as the app you are using. This is the Kindle application, so you're going to get a lot of those page turn animations, which you can toggle on and off depending on where you downloaded Amazon from, if it's fully uploaded, etc. You have long press, you have the different styles of highlights, etc. And if you tap in the middle, it's going to bring up all the Amazon elements, in which case you can expand, change, and alter your experience like so, and then you get into something that looks quite nice. Alternatively, you can use the system's information and go over here to read, in which case you can open up a book from the device itself, and then you can take notes on it. Because this palette does not exist within the confines of the Amazon app, you won't find the ability to do that. Even Amazon themselves don't allow you to take notes on their devices like the Scribe. You can only take sticky notes. With this, if I get to a page here that's kind of filled with some actual text, but that's what the slider's for, we can go like that and zoom through the book. Right about there, that'll have some text. You can use that to take notes like that. You can long press here as well, and that gives you its own options outside of the Amazon one. So you get text, you get copy, you get make a note. You can make a note with the keyboard. The keyboard is fine, I suppose. It's kind of responsive. Nothing too crazy, nothing really as a selling point. It just kind of is what it is. Click delete on that. Tapping in the center, you can get your text augmentation, and they do actually give you quite a bit of ways to change it. And if you don't like the presets, you can press the dots and go even further past the point of the recommended sizes. So needless to say, Meebook has you covered when it comes to reading. You don't have to worry about running into any hurdles. And if you don't like what they offer, just download something from Google Play, Moon Plus Reader, Aldeco, whatever. If you see Meebook's promotional information and approach to social media, you'll always see them talking about Manga, how it's great for manga, this is the one you need for manga. Honestly, all of that just doesn't really equate to this being a manga-driven device. It's good, but it's completely dependent on the app you're using, and because this only has 2 speed modes, you're limited to whatever this can handle. So for example, if A2 mode's on, it doesn't look good, but it's faster. If you turn A2 mode off, then it looks better, but it's slower. And in fact, the prompt comes up and says it's slower. Now this doesn't even have 300 ppi like a Kindle Scribe, for example, so it's not even in the upper echelons of a very good looking screen. It is Carta, however, it's only 227 ppi, and we're starting to see much higher resolutions as the days go on by different manufacturers across the game. So really, it can use Manga totally fine. There's not really much to be said about it. It looks fine. It is completely usable, nothing really kind of hiccups or anything, but it most definitely isn't the be-all end-all. Now for the fun part, everybody, note-taking. Their note-taking approach is pretty simple, and it's really hindered by the pen. If you're watching this, you'll know that we are complete e-note nerds here at Goody Reader, and the weight of the pen, the length of the pen, the kind of tip composites, everything matters. And if you don't think it matters, that's totally fine. It's fair. When I look at certain things, I can just say, oh, that's what it is, and that's enough. But if you dive in, it's different. So we have 4 different pens here, but overall the experience just kind of falls a little bit flat. This is just a very slidey experience. It doesn't really simulate paper, and that's hindered mostly by this tip. And it's the only tip you can buy, which is just this hard plastic. And it just slides all over the place, and you might say that's fine. I don't like a lot of feedback in my writing. It's totally cool because it's subjective. I like my note-taking to feel very real. A lot of people do as well. They like the simulation of having it feel like actual paper, and this just falls completely short because it doesn't feel like paper. You do have that secondary button there to erase, which is I very much appreciate. If you go to the fountain pen, and we'll choose a little bit bigger, you can see that there's not a huge disparity between the lightest line and the heaviest line. So what that basically means is the pressure sensitivity isn't as good as Wacom. If I make a hairline versus a thick line, it's not that different. That's not a large division between them. It's kind of like the Scribe when it first came out with the palette that was quite limiting. You do have some other things like pencil, although it unfortunately doesn't give you tilt. It's just the same no matter what you do. And you know, that might be unfair to say that, but there are 4 manufacturers now that have implemented tilt. So it's not out of the stretch of the imagination to say they might do themselves well by having tilt. Completely honestly, 3 years ago you would say, oh Peter, what are you talking about? Don't hurt them for not having that. But you know, they're losing a lot of these points by not really bringing anything super special to the game. You do have multiple colors that are very nice on export, but really they're just kind of hard to keep track of while you're on the page because they're just 5 different shades of gray, which is kind of nice, I suppose, but it can get a little bit lost. You do have the eraser, in which case you can do scribble erase, area erase the whole page, and you get an eraser size selector as well, which is really cool. You can go like that and throw the palette to the other side, and you have a couple more things up top. You have paper switch, which is going to be your templates. Now, a lot of people say, is that all the templates there are? You can always download more templates, and you can download blank PDFs of whatever you want it to look like and just put them in your device as a PDF, and then you can just, that's your template. So a lot of people kind of have a little bit of confusion over that. Now, this is Pinion. I understand this is not music sheet, but I'm going to treat it as it because I didn't select it. So if you wanted to use this for music, it's totally fine. You can draw your treble clefs, however you do that, and everything is very quick. Latency wise, it's quite fast because it is a powered device. It does have a battery. It's quite nice. It's overall pretty quick. It doesn't make too much scratchy noise. I kind of like it at face value. You can do things like delete this page and share and export. Share and export, you can actually choose where you want to share it, and then it will actually go through the entire device and find all the apps installed on your unit. From there, via Gmail, via Facebook Messenger, via WhatsApp, anything, you just instantly share what you wrote, which is very easy to work with. I like that because if somebody sends you something to your email, you can download it right off of the device. That's some really tiny touch box right there, by the way. You can download it off of the device and you can say, okay, well, sign on the X, boom, 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 sign, go over here, say share and export, choose your signature, say share, and boom. Gmail sent over to your boss, or whatever the case may be. Now, outside of this, you have a couple more things you can do with this drop down. You have text, shape, and insert page. You also have image. That just goes through your device and puts an image there. So if you do shape, you can choose a square. I believe it puts the square when you touch it. Yes, it does. And then you can expand it. You can shorten it. You can do whatever you want with it right there. Spazzing out a little bit there, but you get the idea. And then you do have a selector tool as well right here. Highlight that, select it, move it around. So that's beautiful, but we're missing a lot of things like an on-screen recorder. We're missing things like potentially some sort of diagram application. We're missing handwriting to text conversion, and all of this can be adjusted in a future update, but as is, that is what you are working with. One thing we don't really look at a lot is the web browsing experience, and you guys do ask for it a lot, so let's check it out. We are on the Goody Reader website, and you'll see that it's kind of fuzzing out. Why is that? We're in the normal mode, and that's because it's pushing A2 mode on here to help you get a better experience, which is kind of cool, I think. So what that means is that if we go over to A2 mode, you'll see we are entering A2 mode. It's much faster. Now, the thing gets very fast, and truthfully, this is not the best, but it's definitely top 5 when it comes to the refresh on the web browser. We're not really seeing a whole lot of problems here. You can pinch and zoom. It's all very quick, honestly, but the thing is that you only have 2 modes. I wish they would give you a little bit more variety, so maybe you can choose a balanced. Maybe you can choose an extreme speed that just strips all the grayscale away, because we would like to see that. A2 mode is kind of a thing of the past since, 2010 Bokeen had A2 mode. We're now faced with devices like the monitors, Hisense phones, secondary screens that run up to 27 speed mode options. So there's not really a whole lot of excuse only to have 2.
THERAVEN. A raven, while with glossy breast, her new laid eggs she fondly pressed, and, on her wicker work high.
The TTS is present and it does work on both side-loaded content purchased from the store on the Meebook device itself and the bundled content. It's not that great. In fact, it's not someone trying to speak English with a Chinese accent, which we have heard, but it's not that accurate. In fact, instead of saying some words like when you saw raven, they just spelled the word raven, which doesn't make any sense. So again, maybe download an application that has a better TTS engine, but it does have one. The stock glow light experience is very blue. Really gets to me, but the warm light is fantastic. There's nothing wrong with this. It looks so good, and it's such a nice, balanced, kind of easy on the eyes stone. And what we saw with the Ellipsa 2E, it was an extremely bright experience. This one's not that bad. It's not really lighting up the room, and this is the absolute maximum level of brightness. It is kind of hard to find in a way. For example, if you use the drop down, it's not there. So at first we were wondering, where is it? It's actually the little light bar right there, in which case you have a couple customized, already preset buttons, off and customize. So you can turn it on, orange candlelight, or you can turn it on mixed, which I personally like. Good job on the glow light. Meebook, what can we say? They're continuing the legacy of a now defunct Boyu that was once a market share rival to Onyx. It just seems like the whole timeline between Boyu, Howking, Meebook has just run out of steam. They're cheap devices, sure, but that's really where it ends. It has Google Play, but many manufacturers over the years like Dasung, Bigme, Onyx have already introduced Google Play on their devices, so it's not really groundbreaking in 2023. Not only that, they've taken a step back from the P10W and they've gone with an active capacitive pen. In fact, price point is just about the only thing that Meebook has left to cling to. I suppose that's okay because not every manufacturer needs to make home run units, and there needs to be a wide spread of available devices. If you want to grab one of these, details are down below. Thanks for watching.